You don't just help, you fix everything. Someone mentions a problem in passing, and before they've finished their sentence, you're already 3 steps into a solution. A friend vents about their relationship. A coworker complains about a process. A family member sighs at dinner. And something in you shifts. A quiet alarm goes off. Your mind locks in. You start building the answer before anyone asked for one. This looks like helpfulness. It looks like kindness. It looks like being the capable one, the reliable one, the person people can count on. But here's what it actually is. It's a psychological pattern. And it didn't start with you wanting to help. It started with something much older than that. You are not broken. You are not controlling. You are not someone who can't mind their own business. Your brain learned something early, something it believed would keep you safe, and it's been running that same program ever since. What looks like a personality trait is actually a nervous system response. What feels like generosity is often a survival strategy in disguise. And that doesn't make you less. It makes you human. Deeply, completely human. Let's start at the beginning, because for most people who fix everything, the pattern didn't start in adulthood. It started in a room you can barely remember. Maybe you grew up in a household where things felt unpredictable, where tension lived in the walls, where being useful, really useful, was the thing that made you feel safe. You learned that when you solved problems, the air in the room changed. People relaxed, smiled, appreciated you. You weren't just helpful, you were necessary. And necessary felt like love. So your brain filed that away. It became a blueprint, a map for how to exist in the world without feeling invisible or unwanted. The child who learned to be the fixer didn't choose that role. They discovered it worked, and the brain, brilliant and adaptive as it is, kept repeating what worked. That's not a flaw. That's intelligence. Painful intelligence, but intelligence. Here's the part that goes deeper. Fixing isn't just about helping others. It's about regulating yourself. When something is broken, a relationship, a situation, a person's mood, there's a kind of disorder in the air, an unpredictability. And for people wired this way, unpredictability doesn't just feel uncomfortable. It feels dangerous. The nervous system reads chaos as threat, and fixing is the fastest way to restore order. When you solve the problem, the discomfort dissolves, the anxiety quiets, the tension in your chest releases. Your brain learns action equals relief, stillness equals suffering. So you keep moving, you keep solving, because stopping means sitting inside a feeling you don't know how to hold. Control isn't about power. For fixers, control feels like safety, and safety is all they ever wanted. But here's the part nobody tells you. The problems you're most drawn to fixing, they're rarely the ones on the surface. They're mirrors. When you're consumed by someone else's crisis, you don't have to sit with your own. When you're focused on rebuilding someone else's life, your own unfinished rooms stay dark and undisturbed. Solving other people's problems is easier than facing your own. Not because you're weak, but because yours feel too close, too heavy, too old. Other people's problems have solutions you can see clearly. Your own feel like mazes with no exits. So you redirect outward constantly, and it works for a while. There's also something about identity buried in all of this, something quieter and more dangerous than anxiety. You began to define yourself by your usefulness, not consciously. It happened slowly, the way water shapes stone. People started calling you the responsible one, the one who always had answers, the one you go to. And somewhere in that, being the fixer stopped being something you did. It became something you were. And identity is the hardest thing to examine. Because who are you if you're not fixing? What do you offer if you're not solving? What happens to your value in your own mind when there's nothing to repair? If you're not helping, you don't feel like enough. That sentence might land somewhere sharp, because it's not a belief you chose. It's one you inherited. And you've been carrying it so long it started to feel like a fact. It isn't. But knowing that and feeling that are two very different things. And this is where it gets interesting. The same behavior that once earned you love starts to cost you something. When you're young and you fix things, people praise you. They rely on you. They see you as strong, capable. Together, there's a warmth in that, a sense of belonging earned through competence. But something shifts. Years pass. The fixing doesn't slow down, but the appreciation does. People start to expect it. Your availability becomes assumed. Your effort becomes invisible. You're no longer the hero. You're just the person who handles things. And underneath all that handling, something is building. Not anger exactly, something quieter. A slow accumulation of exhaustion and longing. You give solutions, but no one asks how you're doing. You carry their weight, but yours goes unnoticed. You pour outward, constantly, and no one thinks to ask what's left in the cup. That's not resentment, it's grief. The grief of someone who learned to be needed, but never learned to be held. What once made you feel valuable starts to drain you. The very thing that gave you identity begins to hollow you out. Burnout isn't just exhaustion. For fixers, burnout is an identity crisis. Because if you can't help, if you're too tired, too empty, too done, then who are you? This is the emotional weight that never gets named. The guilt of not helping, the anxiety of stepping back, the irrational feeling that if you let go, something terrible will happen. Your brain has spent years running the equation, my presence equals safety for others, and now it can't unlearn it just because you're tired. Here's what's also true, and it matters. The capacity you carry is not nothing. The ability to see a problem clearly, move toward it without flinching, hold space for someone's chaos while building a way through that is rare. That is a kind of quiet strength most people never develop. Leaders are built this way. Healers, the people who show up when everyone else freezes. This ability is powerful. It's real. It's a gift that came from a hard place, but it's still a gift. The weight isn't in having it. The weight is in believing you have no choice but to use it. Always. For everyone. Without pause. Think of the fixing like an old blanket. It was given to you when you were small and the world felt too large. It kept you warm. It kept you safe. You carried it everywhere because you had to. Because nothing else worked. You still carry it, not because you're weak, but because the hands got used to the weight, because the blanket became familiar, because letting go feels like losing something you can't name. But you're not the child who needed it anymore. You're someone who has choices the child didn't have. Someone who can put the blanket down, not throw it away, just set it down, and still be whole. You don't need to fix everything to be valued. Read that again, slowly. Not everything is yours to carry. Not every problem is a signal for you to act. Not every person who struggles needs you to save them. Some things are meant to stay broken for a while. Some people are meant to find their own way. And your worth, your actual, unconditional worth, does not decrease when you step back. You were never meant to carry everything. That was never the assignment. It just felt that way for so long that it started to feel like truth. If you see yourself in any of this, if something in these words felt uncomfortably familiar, that recognition is not a wound. It's information. It's your mind finally seeing itself clearly. You are not too much. You are not controlling. You are not someone who can't let go. You are someone who learned very early that love looked like usefulness. And you've been living inside that lesson ever since. That makes sense. It makes complete sense. And understanding why you are the way you are, not to fix it, not to change it, just to see it, is one of the quietest, most generous things you can do for yourself. Not everything needs to be fixed, not even this.